Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tuwassir wa tammim bil khair. Just review the rules that we have learned already before we start exercise number 3, because we know that we have to do the exercises based on the same pattern, on the same rule. So that's why it's better to have a look at the rules once more, inshallah, and then we will do the exercises. We have seen that there are different types of exception. The first one that we have learned is tamun, and tamun means that mustathna minhu is mentioned. That's why it is called tamun. Ja'at tullabu kulluhum illa hamidan. All the students came except Hamid, so we know that at-tullabu is mustathna minhu. And mufarraghun is where mustathna minhu is not mentioned. So that's a major difference between these two. Mufarraghun, when mustathna minhu is not mentioned, and we know that the main adatul istithna is illa, and the noun that comes before illa is mustathna minhu, and the noun that comes after illa is mustathna. So here mustathna minhu is mentioned when we talk about tamun, and when we talk about mufarraghun, then mustathna minhu is not mentioned. So that's the biggest difference between these two. Then when a sentence or a kalam is tamun, it can be muttasilun and it could be munqati'un. Muttasilun means mustathna is of the same kind as mustathna minhu. So mustathna and mustathna minhu are of the same kind. And munqati'un, as it is clear from the name, mustathna is of a different kind from mustathna minhu. Yani it is disconnected from mustathna minhu. In other words, whatever comes before illa, it is disconnected from that. And then we have muttasilun, and after that we have mujabun. And mujabun means that the sentence is affirmative. Simply it is affirmative. And when we say ghayru mujab, that means the sentence is negative, prohibitive, or interrogative. And here if we see that if a speech or a kalam is tamun, and it is tamun, muttasilun, and mujabun, then it will always be, mustathna will always be mansub. So it should be tamun, muttasilun, and mujabun. And if it is mufarraghun, then mufarraghun means the mustathna will depend on, as if we remove illa, and it will depend on the i'rab of the noun that comes before it. So it's as if illa does not exist. So when you remove it, after that, whatever the possibility is there, then that will be the i'rab of mufarraghun. Munqati'un is always mansub. So two types of mustathna are always mansub. Number one, when it is tamun, muttasilun, and mujabun. And number two, when it is munqati'un. If it is tamun, muttasilun, and ghayru mujab, then there are two possibilities, that it can be, al-mustathna can be mansub, or it can be the same as mustathna minhu. So there are two possibilities. Number one, it can be mansub, and number two, it can be the same as it is like mustathna minhu, or in other words, we can say that this is the badal of mustathna minhu. It is a substitute from mustathna minhu. Alright, استخرج من الدرس ما ورد فيه من أمثلة الاستثناء واذكر نوع كل واحد منها وإعرابه. So what we have to do, we have to extract the examples of istithna, and then we have to mention the type of each kind of them and also the case endings. And alhamdulillah, we have done that in detail when we did the lesson. So I'm sure, inshallah, you know this already, and if you need to know more about it, you can always refer back to the lesson. عين المستثنى والمستثنى منه فيما يأتي. Now we have to specify the mustathna and mustathna minhu. واذكر نوع الاستثناء في كل مثال, and then we have to mention the type of istithna in each and every example. The first one is the verse of the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تقولوا على الله إلا الحق. And do not say anything about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except for what is truth. And not say about Allah but the truth. Yes. So al-haqqa is mansub over here. All right. So ولا تقولوا. So first of all, the easiest thing we have to see is this mujab or غير mujab. The kalam is mujab or غير mujab.
غير موجب.
غير mujab. Excellent. So when it is غير mujab, then we know that mustathna minhu, there is a possibility that it can be mansub and it can be marfu. And as we know that in the Quran, the Arab and the case endings are always there. So Alhamdulillah, we don't need to bother about that. The only thing that we need to focus on is like whatever we have learned, we just try to implement it and make sure that whatever we have learned is right and we know how exactly it works. That's only for our own knowledge. Whereas we know that all the rules of the grammar are taken from the Quran. So we don't really have to bother about the case endings because it will always be there. But it will definitely help us to know our own knowledge, our own understanding of the rules, and also our own understanding of the Arabic language. Okay, so it's غير موجب, and number 2, is it تام or مفرغ? ولا تقولوا على الله. So do we have مستثنى منه over here?
Mention Ustad.
It's not mentioned, so that's why it is مفرغ. So whenever we know that whenever mustathna minhu is not mentioned, it is mufarraghun, and it is marfu'un ala annahu maf'ulun bihi, and it is maf'ulun bihi of what? Of la taqulu. So we know that when we say la taqulu, do not say yani antum taqulu. So there is fail plus file, and al-haqqa will be maf'ul bihi. That's why it is mansub. All right. Number 2. ولا يلتفت منكم أحد إلا امرأتك. Okay. Again, is it mujab or غير mujab?
غير موجب.
غير mujab. Okay. And we know what whenever kalam is غير mujab, we know that يجوز نصبه, then it's possible that it can be mansub, and we know that it can be marfu'. So ولا يلتفت منكم أحد. So is it تام or مفرغ?
تأمل.
Tamun, excellent. ولا يلتفت منكم أحد, because أحد is mentioned over here. So when we know that whenever mustathna minhu is mentioned, and then it will be tamun. So it is tamun muttasilun, but غير mujab. It is غير mujab because again we can see that there is prohibition. So whenever we have غير mujab, whenever the speech is tamun muttasilun غير mujab, then it has to be it can be marfu and it can be mansub, and we know that whenever it is mansub, we know that yajuzu nasbuhu, then it's possible for it to be mansub, and we know that imraatak over here it is mansub. And why? Because yajuzu nasbuhu. And let not among you look back except your wife. Let not, as we can see that this is prohibition. So here it is غير mujab, and here also it is غير mujab. وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And who can forgive sins except Allah? All right, so is it tamman or mufarraghun?
It is
وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ.
مفرغ.
Mufarraghun, ahsanti. Yes, it's mufarraghun. And we know that whenever it is mufarraghun, then what we should do is basically we remove, or we say as if illa does not exist. And this is only for our own understanding. So as if illa does not exist, so yaghfiru is the verb, and it needs the doer, or it needs the fa'il, and lafz al-jalala is the fa'il. So that's why it is marfu. So it's mufarraghun marfu'un ala annahu fa'ilun. So as we know that here ism al-jalala is the doer, and that's why it will be marfu. So I hope inshallah it's clear over here. And we know that mufarragh, we know that whenever we are doing the like i'rab for mufarragh, we can only do it by removing illa. Again, illa as if it does not exist, but only for the purpose of learning, and not, we can't really remove it, in reality. Then we have the next one. And who can forgive sins except Allah? وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. Okay. And your Lord has decreed that you worship not except Him. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. So إِيَّاهُ is mansub. Also, it's mufarragh because mustathna minhu is not mentioned. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ and مَنْصُوبٌ عَلَى أَنَّهُ مَفْعُولٌ بِهِ. إِيَّاهُ here is مَفْعُولٌ بِهِ. لَا تَعْبُدُ Allah is basically an la, and because of the rules of the tajweed it becomes Allah ta'budu. So this is la an-nahiya, that you do not worship illa except iyahu, and we know that iyahu, this is the damir of mansub, or it's the damir of nasb. Whenever we have iyahu, iyahuma, iyahum, iyaka, iyakuma, iyakunna, up to iyana, it is always the damir of mansub. It cannot be marfu. So that's why here it is mansub. And then the next one is وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهَرُ, and nothing destroys us except time. Again, mustathna minhu is not mentioned. Yeah, okay, excellent. So it's mufarraghun. And why it is marfu? Marfu'un ala annahu fa'ilun. Ad-dahru is the doer, and yuhliku, as we can see, is the fa'il. Now will be maf'ul bihi. So yuhliku is the verb, and ad-dahru will be the fa'il. So وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرُ, and again we can see that this is غَيْرُ مُوجَب, and غَيْرُ مُوجَب, as we know, غَيْرُ مُوجَب can be marfu and it can also be mansub. So there are two possibilities. So here we will say, because it is mufarragh, that's why it's easier to understand when it is mufarragh, because we remove illa, and then after that we can see that here ad-dahru is doer, or it is marfu. That's why the ending of ad-dahru is dhamma, or it is marfu. فَإِنَّهُمْ عَدُوٌّ لِّي إِلَّا رَبَّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Okay, what about this one? Indeed, they are enemies to me except the Lord of the worlds.
This is munqati'un. It seems like
Munqati'un. Excellent. Yes, munqati'un. Perfect. And when we know that whenever it is munqati'un, then it has to be mansub. It's wajib that we have to make it mansub. So wujubun nasbi. So that's why we can see that Rabb al-alamin. Rabb is basically over here. It is mansub and it is mudaf, and al-alamin is mudaf ilayh. Indeed, they are enemies to me except the Lord of the worlds. So alhamdulillah, we are able to understand the verses of the Quran, and also about illa, we know that it's been a little bit like harder than the rest of the rules, and it needed a little bit more effort, but alhamdulillah, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have been able to analyze the verses of the Quran, and then we have a little bit more practice, inshallah, and this practice is going to be easier now. أمام كل جملة مما يأتي اسم. In front of each sentence there is a noun. اجعله مستثنى بإلا. Then we have to make istithna using illa. وأكمل به الجملة, and then we have to complete the sentence. Okay, the first one we will analyze it all the way, and inshallah the rest of the sentences will be based on the same pattern, so it will be easier for us to figure out the mustathna. يغفر الله الذنوب كلها إلا. So what should be here, ashirku or ashirka?
ashirka, because it is
Ashirka.
tamun.
Excellent, because adh-dhunub is mustathna and mustathna minhu, and ashirk is dhanb. So it is tamun. We can see that it's tamun, it's muttasilun, dhanb and shirk are muttasilun, and also it is mujabun. So all the three conditions have been met, and we know that whenever all the three conditions have been met, then mustathna is always mansub. And now I can drop you a hint that the rest of the sentences will be based on the same pattern. Zarani jami'u zumalai illa
isnaini.
illa ithnaini. Excellent. So Zarani jami'u zumalai, all of my classmates visited me. Illa ithnaini, except for two. So we can see the illa ithnaini except for two, and the idea is the same as we have discussed in the first example, and as I said, that the rest of the sentences will be based on the same pattern. نجح الطلاب كلهم إلا المتأخرين. Excellent. All the students succeeded except for the latecomers. And the same thing, as we can see that at-tullab, and we know kulluhum is used for emphasis, and al-mutaakhirin, it's the students who are late, so it's tamun, muttasilun, and also it is mujabun, and that's why it is wujubun nasbi. It has to be mansub. Hafidh al-Qur'ana illa surah Taini, excellent. I memorized the whole Quran except for the 2 surahs. And again, the idea is the same, that the surahs, they are the part of the Quran. So it is muttasilun, also it is tamun, and it is mujabun. Okay, next is Zurtul Bilad al-Islamiyyata kullaha illa
Pakistan.
Pakistan. I visited all the Islamic countries except for Pakistan. So now we can see that Al-Bilad al-Islamiyya, Islamic countries, and also Pakistan is Islamic Republic of Pakistan. So it's a part of all Islamic countries, as we can see over here. So that's why all the conditions, all the 3 conditions have been met. And that's why Al-Mustathna is mansoob. Sa'adani jami'u zumala'i illa. Now I want to test your knowledge. All the classmates helped me except for you.
Iyaka.
Iyaka, excellent. Illa iyaka, because as we have discussed earlier, that anta is the pronoun, and it is in the place of the doer. So this is subject pronoun. But when we say iyaka, iyaka will be the object pronoun. And here we have to have the noun that is object, or the pronoun that is object. Okay. فهمت المسائل النحوية كلها. This is my favorite sentence. إلا الاستثناء.
I understood.
Yeah, I understood all the grammatical rules except for exception. إلا الاستثناء. So alhamdulillah, we did understand istithna, but as we discussed in the beginning of the lesson, that istithna is slightly difficult as compared to the other rules. Yeah. So فهمت المسائل النحوية كلها إلا الاستثناء. And here, how would you analyze it? Please give me the analysis so that we know istithna, inshallah.
Masail Nahwiya is all of their the rules of this thing, right?
Of the grammar, yes, yeah. And istithna is also the rule of the grammar. Excellent. So that means they are muttasilun, they are a part of one another or each other, right? And then the sentence is mujab or ghayru mujab. Positive or it's mujab, it's positive. And also tamun, as we know that mustathna minhu is mentioned. So all the 3 conditions have been met. So that means inshallah our istithna is clear now. قرأت الكتاب كله إلا
Safahatin.
Excellent. Safahatin, yeah. Atin. This is also slightly confusing. We know that whenever we talk about feminine sound plural, the marfu will be atun, and mansub and majroor will be atin. And here it has to be mansub, it will be atin. Qara'tul kitaba kullahu illa safahatin minhu. I read the whole book except for a few pages from it. أمام كل جملة مما يأتي اسم. The same idea, the same text. I mean, اجعله مستثنى بإلا وأكمل به الجملة. And now we have to complete the sentences using إلا. Okay, now if you look here, we have ma, lam, la, hal, and ma. So that means all of them are غير موجب, right? So if all the sentences, we can see that all of them are غير موجب, that means now there are 2 possibilities. Yeah, that mustathna can be, it can be mansub, and it can be according to whatever we have in the sentence, right? So it can be, there are 2 possibilities. Number 1, it will be mansub, mustathna will be mansub, and number 2, it will be the badal of whatever we have over here. So ma rasaba ahadun illa, no one failed except for Khalid. Yeah. So now Khalid can have 2 case endings. It can be mansub Khalidan, and it can be marfu Khalidun. Why it is marfu? Because it is badal from ahadun, and we know that badal has the same i'rab as mubdal minhu. So ahadun is marfu and Khalidun is marfu. And the second possibility is when kalam is ghayru mujab, then it can also be mansub. So there are 2 possibilities, and both of them are clear now. Ma akaltu shay'an illa, except for 2 dates. I didn't eat anything except for 2 dates. Illa. Okay, so there are 2 possibilities. So what should be the 2 possibilities over here? Tamrataini. Okay, so twice it will be tamrataini. Okay, why twice it has to be tamrataini? Number one, it has to be mansoob, right? So that's fine. And number two, now we can see that shay'an is mansoob. And from shay'an, tamrataini is badal.
Actually, yeah. Okay.
It's badal. So badal is always, as we can see, it carries the same i'rab as it has the i'rab of mubdal minhu. So shay'an is mansoob and tamrataini is also mansoob. I hope it's clear now.
Mm.
So the first possibility is that it's badal. And the second possibility is that it has to be or it can be mansoob. لم يسافر الطلاب في عطلة الربيع إلا
بعضهم.
بعضهم and بعضهم, right? So بعضهم and بعضهم, both of them are there. So بعضهم will be the badal of طلاب and بعضهم is the second possibility that it can also be mansoob. لا تتصل بأحد إلا المدير المديرة
مديرة.
وإلا المديري, right? Two possibilities will be there. Al-Mudiri, why it is majroor? Because it is the badal of ahadin.
Yeah.
Excellent. And the second possibility, we know that it can be mansoob. هل يغفر الذنوب أحد إلا الله?
It can be أحد.
Yeah, so it can be, there are two possibilities again. So it can be illallahu and it can be illallaha. Similarly, we have la ilaha illallahu and also it can be la ilaha illallaha. Both possibilities are there in kalima. But you know, like as the grammarians, they say that marfu is like it's afsahu min mansoob. So it's like more like, as we can say, yes,
More preferable.
yes, more preferable. So that's why, and that's why in kalima we have la ilaha illallahu. However, even if it is like la ilaha illallah, also that will be grammatically correct. ما سألت أحدا إلا
إياه.
إلا إياه. Okay, so إياه will come how many times?
أحدا إياه إياه.
Okay, twice. Perfect. So number one, it is iyahu because it is mansoob, and number two, it is badal from ahadan. Okay, and similarly here, it is badal over here. Easier, inshallah. Clear? All right. أمام كل جملة مما يأتي اسما اجعله مستثنى بإلا واكمل به الجملة. Okay, so here, what do you think could happen over here? Again, we have ma, yeah. So most likely it will be the same idea as we have seen earlier. So let's do, but there are some possibilities are there that if the kalam is tam or ghayru tam, then we have to go according to the case endings. So we will see that in number 7, most of the sentences, or we can say like, majority of the sentences are mufarragh. They are mufarragh. And what do you remember about mufarragh? What should be the case endings?
Mansoob.
Mufarragh is mansoob. Are you sure? As if illa does not exist.
Yeah, the illa.
Mufarragh is as if illa does not exist.
It depends
Okay.
on the position of the sentence as well.
Yeah, because we know that all of the sentences are ghayru mujab, but the thing is they are mufarragh. If you look at the sentences, we will see like, why do we say mufarragh? Because mustathna minhu is not mentioned.
It's not mentioned. Okay.
Yeah, so ma fahima darsa illa. So what we have to do, for the sake of learning grammar, we will see as if illa does not exist. So ma fahima darsa illa. No one understood the lesson except for Ibrahim. And if Ibrahim is the doer of the action, so what will be the ending of Ibrahim?
Ibrahimu only.
Ibrahimu, yeah. So fahima is fail, Ibrahimu is fa'il, and adars is. Again, we have to remove illa and we have to look for the doer of the action.
Asaiqu only will come.
Yes, excellent. So it will be asaiqu because if you remove illa, ma mata, no one died. Ma mata, and we can see that mata is the verb, and then the doer of the action will be as-sa'iqu, and fil hadith is jar majroor, so it will be marfu, right? Ma mata fil hadith illa as-sa'iqu. No one died in the accident except for the driver. ما يحب المدرس إلا, the teacher doesn't like anyone except for the hardworking student. إلا
مجتهدون.
لا يحب فعل, المدرس فاعل for the best student or the hardworking student. هل يرسب إلا
الكسلان. لا، الكسلان يرسب الكسلان.
الكسلان. Yeah, the doer of the action. هل يرسب إلا الكسلان? Will anyone fail except for the lazy one? Or does anyone fail except for the lazy one? Then we have ما أكلت إلا
قال أكلت.
برتقالتين. أكلت
Okay,
is fail, أكلت is fail plus file, and برتقالتين will be مفعول به. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to remove إلا because it is مفرغ. Then we have ما سأل المدرس إلا
yeah.
إياي. Excellent. إلا إياي. And when you stop, you will say إلا إياي. It will be إلا إياي. إياي. إلا إياي. Okay. And then we have ما كنت إلا مدرسا. Yes, because كنت is fail plus file. Or in fact, we know that kana has ismu kana and khabaru kana. So ta, as we can see, yes, ismu kana, and we know that and khabaru kana will always be mansub. So this is also alhamdulillah easier, and we are able to figure out most of the ideas in this exercise as well. So let's move on to the next exercise. أمام كل جملة فيما يأتي اسم اجعله مستثنى بإلا وأكمل به الجملة. So that's the same thing. We have to complete the sentences by using illa. Okay, do you want me to drop your hint or you would like to figure out by yourselves?
كتبت الرسالة.
Illa al-unwana. Is there any connection between risala and unwan?
The kind. And is the what is unwan?
Munqatiun. So here we have the examples of munqatiun. Munqatiun means they are not from the same jins. They are not from the same jins. Okay. So risala is like it's a letter, and then unwan is the address. So two different things. They are disconnected. Munqatiun. So that's why we know that the ending of munqatiun is always. Do you remember? Munqatiun is always
Mansub.
mansub. Yeah, that's why in the beginning of the lesson we had a bit of review so that we remember everything. So كتبت رسالة إلا العنوان. I wrote the message except for the address. ما يتناول المريض الطعام إلا
الدواء.
الدواء. So we know that we can see that ta'am and dawa, they are two different things, right? So kalam is munqati'un, so that's why it will be mansub. ما يتناول المريض الطعام إلا الدواء. The patient did not eat any kind of food except for the medicine. He didn't eat food, but he took the medicine. So we know that there is no connection between food and medicine. And as when we talk about the jins, I mean, yeah. So it's not badul kalam, yani dua is not a part of the food, right?
Yes.
غادر الحجاج منا إلا الشرطة. So all the pilgrims left Mina when they go for Hajj, except for the policeman. إلا الشرطة, right? الشرطة, because Hujjaj and Shurta, they are munqati'un, yeah, they are disconnected. ما أحضرت الكتب إلا
الدفاتر.
الدفاتر. Excellent. So books and notebooks, they are different. So that's why it's munqati'un. And whenever the speech is munqati'un, then it has to be mansub. ما مات الركاب في الحادث إلا المشاة, right? إلا المشاة. No passengers died in the accident except for the pedestrians. Pedestrians, we have learned that the mashin is masha yamshi fahuwa mashin, and the plural of mashin will be mushatun. So mushatun is used for pedestrians. Al-ishara to al-mashatu, the signal that we see on the like road. So it's called pedestrian crossing, and then there is a signal, they press on that signal and then they pass the road. So that's the plural of mashin is mashatun. Ma mata ar-rukabu fil hadithi illa al-mashata. No passengers died in the accident except for the pedestrians. Now we know that rukab and pedestrians are different. It's munqatiun. It's munqatiun because generally the passengers are in any kind of vehicle, whereas the pedestrians are walking. So there is no connection. So that's why it is munqatiun, and that's why it is mansub. I believe it's the last one over here, and this is our test, real test for all of us. أكمل كل جملة مما يأتي بمستثنى مناسب. Now we have to complete the sentences by using a suitable mustathna. Okay, ما ظننتك إلا, I don't see you, but إلا, we can say مدرسا, طبيبا, طالبا, right? So I don't see you, or I don't assume, or I don't assume you other than a doctor. So ما ظننتك إلا طبيبا. So what kind of sentence is this? Mujab or غير mujab? غير mujab. And we know that when we have غير mujab, then it's possible for it to be mansub, and also it's possible to be marfu. However, mustathna minhu is mentioned or not?
It's not mentioned.
Yeah, so that's why it has to be mansub, because it is munqatiun, right? The speech or the sentence can be tamun muttasilun, and it can be tamun munqatiun, right? So here it's not tamun, it is tamun, sorry, but it's munqatiun, it's not connected. Mustathna minhu is not from the same family as it is supposed to be. So because we know that ka and tabib, they are completely different. أحب الفواكه كلها إلا الموزة التفاحة العنبة. So when you say, let's say التفاحة, now here why it is mansub?
It's one of 9, so it should be muttasilun, mujibun, and tamun.
أحسنتي, all the three conditions have been met. تام, متصل, وموجب. Very good. ما رسب الطلاب إلا بلالا زيدا عمارا سليما.
غير
Mhm.
mujab.
Mhm.
The same irab of tullab. Or
Excellent. So it could be badal from tulab, and it can be mansub, because it is غير mujab and mustathna minhu is connected. So that's the difference between muttasilun and munqatiun. In muttasilun, the mustathna minhu is the same jins as al-mustathna. So al-mustathna, sorry, is the same jins as mustathna minhu. But when we talk about munqatiun, then mustathna is different from mustathna minhu. They are completely different. ما غاب اليوم إلا, I will, okay, any name there. Zaidun, Muhammadun, Bilalun. So what should I say? Bilalun or Bilalan or Bilalin? Mm,
laba, so it should be file. It should be file. Bilalun.
Bilalun. Excellent. Why? Because it is,
Because it should be a file.
it's mufarragh, right? We don't have mustathna minhu. Do we have mustathna minhu over here?
No, sir.
So that's why it's munqati'un. So that's why it has to be. Sorry, it is mufarragh. So that's why it will be Bilalun. ما أرغب في شيء إلا, the example that the Sheikh has given over here, he mentioned two over here is az-zawaj, az-zawaji wa az-zawaja. I'm not interested in anything else except for marriage. So here, az-zawaji and az-zawaja, why we have two case endings?
Fi shay'in, the shay is this one. It's,
Badal, okay. Yeah, shayin and az-zawaj, they are badal.
this one is
And
غير
here
mujab.
az-zawaja, it's غير mujab, so it can be also mansub. Excellent. ما كتبت شيئا إلا الرسالة. I didn't write anything else except for the message. And we have seen this example in the previous exercise as well, because they are not connected, they are munqatiun, and we know that munqatiun is always mansub, as we can see over here. All right. So Alhamdulillah, our journey of illa or exception has come to an end over here. However, it has come to an end only in this lesson. And when we talk about the Quran and the rest of the Arabic, that means our journey has just started. Yeah. Okay. Here we have ala kullu shay'in, ala harfu istiftahin wa tanbihin. So ala is basically a letter of beginning and also a letter of drawing someone's attention. Nahwu ala innahum humus sufaha. Allah means beware. Also, unquestionably, it's translated in different ways. And we know that this is basically harfu istiftah that is used, that comes in the beginning of the sentence. And why does it come? To draw the attention of the listener. Allah innahum humus sufaha. Unquestionably, it is they who are the foolish, but they do not know it. We don't have this part, so only this up to here. Allah innahum humus sufaha'u. Unquestionably, it is they who are the foolish. And we know, we can see over here, this is hum, over here is damirul fasl. Ala inna awliya Allahi la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. Again, in the Sahih International, it has been translated as unquestionably. But again, as he said, there are different translations and they translate halla, right? Halla, which is used for tandeem and also for like tawdih. So for two reasons, like when you're encouraging tahdid and tandeem, right? We have learned about halla, and now we are learning about ala. Similarly, we have in the Quran like kalla, and similarly we have Allah, and here we have learned ala, and also halla we have seen in the previous lesson. So this is just one of the things that we learn about in this lesson. Then we have hati jam' al asma al atiyati. We have to provide the plural of the following nouns. Dinarun. Yes, does anyone know the meaning? The plural of dinar? It will be dananiru. Dananiru. Mafa'ilu. It's on the pattern of mafa'ilu. Dirhamun. It's on the pattern of mafa'ilu. So it will be darahimu. And we know these are the currencies that are used. Abdun, and the plural will be ibadun. Ibadun, that we like in the prayer every day when we recite at tashahhud. So we say assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. Yeah, so ibadun. Then we have amatun, that is used for the female slave, and the plural is ima'un. Amatun, ima'un. Silahun, weapon, and the plural will be aslihatun. Aslihatun. Okay, very good. Then we have sharhun, masdaru sharha yashrahu, wa huwa ala wazni fi'lin. So we can see that sharhun is on the pattern of fi'lun. So we have the verbs over here, and now we have to provide their masdar on the same pattern, which is fi'lun. So daraba will be darbun. Qatala will be qatlun. Fataha will be fathun. And shaqqa will be shaq. Excellent. And then after that, you have to use the rules of the idgham. So it will be shaqqun. Because, you know, whenever we have the two letters, they are the same. And then what happens? So there is a tashdid, and after tashdid, we merge them. So it was originally shaqikun, and then it becomes shaqqun, which is to crack something. Ma ma'na al-amati wa ma jam'uha. I've just provided the meaning of al-amati and the plural a while ago. So do you remember?
Imaun, something like that.
Excellent. Yeah. And what's the meaning? Do you remember the meaning?
The slave, the female slave.
Female slave. Excellent. So it manaha al-mar'atul mamlukatu mar'a, right? We know that it's imra'atun, and whenever we use al with that, then it will be read as al-mar'atu. Al-mar'atul mamlukatu wa jam'uha ima'un. Female slave, the one who has been owned by someone else, and its plural is ima'un.
It says, no, Ustad, this one, ayah, وَيَوْمَ يَشَقَّقُ الْأَرْضُ. That one you said the shaqaqa is the cleaving
Yes.
of the...
Yes, the cleaving or the cracking of إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ. Yeah. So that's the verb, something that cracks or cleavage, as you said. Dinar, jam'uhu, dananiru. The plural of dinar is dananiru. Ala ghayri qiyasin. But it's not on qiyas, it's not on the analogy that we use, or the wazn, or the pattern that we use, or we can say it's not on the same measure as it should be. إذا القياس أن يكون ديانير. When we talk about the qiyas, the plural should be diyaniru, because it is dinar, right? So we have dal and then we have ya after that. So if you want to put it on the pattern of mafa'ilu, it will be diyaniru. But what happened over here? It is غير, it's ala غير قياس, that it is a different kind of pattern that we can see over here. And it can happen in the Arabic language. It's not always the case, but there is a possibility that the plural, the pattern, we know in the pattern, we know that the vowel signs will be the same. For example, it will be mafa'ilu, right? So the vowel signs will be the same, but generally the root letters do not change. The root letters do not change, but here we can see that the root letter also has changed. So instead of dayanir, it is dananir. So ya has been changed with na. And that's as we know, the beauty of the Arabic language. I think nothing else that we can say about it. Now, ijma'il asma al-atiyata hadha al-jam'a. Diwan, so diwanu will be on the same pattern. So it will be dawawinu, yeah, collection of poems. Dawawinu, perfect. Qirat, as we say in gold, carat. So it will be
Qaratitu.
okay. Qararitu. It will be qararitu. Dimas is used for dungeon or any kind of prison that's generally inside a building. So Dimas will be Dama Misu. Dama Misu. Oh, okay. All right. So
has
yes.
to be repeated. Yeah.
Sorry.
Word has to be repeated. Instead of ya, we are taking the same word and repeating it.
Yes, yes. So that's the only small change that takes place. And that's, as I said, that doesn't follow the qiyas, but it's not like always the case. There are very few cases that we can see over here that can happen over here. And this number 15, question number 15, akhsha an akuna iyahu. I'm afraid I'm that student, or I'm that one. إذا كان خبر كان. So if the khabar of kana is إذا كان خبر كان ضميرا, so if the khabar of kana is a ضمير, or if it's a pronoun, يجوز فيه الاتصال, then it's possible to connect it. والانفصال, and also it's possible to disconnect it. Yani to put it together and also to not to put it together. فيجوز أن نقول أخشى أن أكونه. It's also possible to say that I am that student. So we can say akhsha an akuna iyahu, and also it's possible to say akhsha an akunahu. And that's the only possibility when khabaru kana is a pronoun, when it is damir. No other possibility, just one possibility when khabaru kana is a pronoun. Ha'a mithalaini akharaini. Here are two other examples. Akunta imam hadha al-masjidi, were you the imam of this masjid? Naam, kuntu iyahu wa kuntuhu. So I was that person, and I was the imam of that masjid, and I was that person, kuntuhu. So there are two possibilities. We can say kuntu iyahu, and we can also say kuntuhu. Aturidu an takuna mudarrisan, do you want to be a teacher? La ma uridu an akuna iyahu. Or we can say an akunahu. I don't want to be a teacher, and also we can say iyahu, and also we can say akunahu. We have seen like kana has lots of uses in the Quran, lots of different possibilities. Different tenses are used when we talk about kana, and here we have something different as well. And this is special to kana as well, that whenever khabaru kana is a pronoun, it's a damir, then there are two possibilities, that we can have the detached pronoun, and we can also have the attached pronoun as khabaru kana. So alhamdulillah, finally our lesson has come to an end. So as we know that inna ma'al usri yusra, or inna ma'al usri yusra, as we can say. So there is always, inshallah, ease after difficulty. So inshallah, I believe that we have been through that phase, and now whatever inshallah comes will be easier for us to understand and to implement. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
جزاك الله خير.